Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the bathroom, a mundane scene unfolded, revealing a portrait of corporate conformity. The man's reflection revealed a 30-something professional, crisp white shirt, gray trousers, and a vibrant tie. A festive gift from well-intentioned parents who believed their son's fashion sense needed guidance, even as a grown man. As he gazed into the mirror, Nolan adjusted his auburn locks, reflecting on his unremarkable existence. 3 years in this corporate machine, pinnacle strategies, and yet, recognition seemed like a distant dream. The tranquility was abruptly broken as the bathroom door swung with purpose. Richard, the HR director, marched in, his customary tablet held tightly. "Something wrong with the Henderson proposal?"
No.
Richard glanced around the empty bathroom before lowering his voice.
We have a situation with the Evergreen retreat next week.
The Evergreen Retreat, the annual 3-day corporate gathering at a luxury resort where executives showcased their projects, networked, and made career-defining impressions. After years of being passed over, Nolan had finally secured a spot to present his innovative campaign for their largest client.
What about it? My presentation's ready to go.
Richard shifted uncomfortably.
Marissa Doyle broke her leg skiing yesterday.
She'll be out for at least 6 weeks. That's unfortunate, but what does it have to do with...
The retreat has strict diversity requirements, Richard interrupted. Corporate headquarters demands equal gender representation from each department. With Marissa out, marketing will be all men.
Nolan frowned.
Can't someone from another department cover? Everyone else has their own presentations.
Richard's expression turned pleading.
We need someone from marketing who knows the accounts and projects inside and out. So promote one of the female associates temporarily. There's no time for them to prepare adequately.
Richard took a deep breath.
The executive committee suggested an unconventional solution.
The pause that followed filled the bathroom with uncomfortable silence.
Which is?
Nolan prompted. Richard's words came in a rush.
We need you to attend as Marissa's female colleague.
Laughter burst from Nolan's throat before he realized Richard wasn't joking.
You can't be serious.
Dead serious. It's just for 3 days. You're approximately Marissa's size, and you won't have to change your presentation. Just your presentation. Absolutely not. This is insane. Richard's expression hardened.
Caleb mentioned you were hoping for the senior marketing position opening next month.
The implication hung in the air. Nolan's promotion chances would evaporate if he refused.
This is blackmail. This is corporate problem solving,
Richard countered.
Besides, we're offering a substantial bonus for your cooperation.
Nolan ran a hand through his hair again, mind racing through options that didn't exist. His rent had just increased. Student loans still loomed large, and that senior position would solve many financial problems.
3 days,
he finally said. And nobody at the retreat can know. Agreed. Only the executive committee will be aware. Richard's relief was palpable.
Report to Marissa's office tomorrow morning. Her assistant will handle everything.
As Richard left, Nolan turned back to the mirror. His reflection offered no comfort, only the face of someone whose career ambitions had just led him down an unexpected path. The following morning, Nolan arrived at Marissa's office with a sense of impending doom. Her assistant, Vivian, greeted him with surprising enthusiasm. "Mr. Harper, come in!" She closed the door behind him. "I understand you're helping with our diversity predicament."
Reluctantly,
he admitted. Vivian nodded sympathetically. "The things we do for career advancement. But don't worry, I've got everything prepared." Everything, turned out to be a comprehensive transformation plan. Over the next 4 hours, Vivian coached Nolan on basic feminine mannerisms, walking in heels and applying simple makeup. A delivery arrived containing clothing in his size, including the specified navy blue pencil skirt and cream silk blouse. "You'll need a name," Vivian remarked as she helped him assemble outfits for the 3-day retreat. "I hadn't thought about that." "How about something memorable but not too flashy?" Vivian suggested. "Serafina has a nice ring to it." "Serafina?" Nolan tested the name. "Seems a bit much." "Trust me, it'll work perfectly in that environment. Distinctive enough to remember, sophisticated enough to command respect." Against his better judgment, Nolan agreed. Serafina it would be. The week passed in a blur of preparations. The night before the retreat, Nolan sat in his apartment surrounded by luggage containing clothes he never imagined owning. Anxiety gnawed at his stomach. What had he gotten himself into? Morning arrived too quickly. Vivian met him at his apartment, transforming him into Serafina with practiced efficiency. Auburn hair extensions were applied, matching his natural color, but cascading down to shoulder length. Subtle makeup, shapewear, the navy pencil skirt and cream blouse, low heels that Vivian insisted were training wheels. The mirror revealed someone Nolan barely recognized. "Remember, confidence is key," Vivian advised as she drove him to the airport. "Walk like you own the room, speak deliberately, and nobody will question you." The corporate jet awaited, with a handful of Pinnacle executives already aboard. Nolan, now Serafina, felt his heart hammering as he approached the plane. Richard intercepted him at the stairs. "You look convincing," the HR director whispered. "Remember, you're Serafina Collins, recently transferred from our West Coast office." Taking a deep breath, Serafina boarded the plane. Eyes turned toward the unfamiliar face. She smiled professionally and selected a seat near the window, praying nobody would choose the one beside her. No such luck. Marcus Whitfield, the company's charismatic sales director, settled in next to her. "Don't believe we've met," he said, extending his hand. "Marcus Whitfield." "Serafina Collins." Her voice came out higher than intended. "West Coast transfer." "Ah, Marissa mentioned you. Marketing, right?" His smile appeared genuine. "First evergreen retreat?" "Yes, actually." "You'll love it. Great networking opportunity." Marcus leaned slightly closer.
Word of advice. The first night's cocktail hour is where the real connections happen. Don't miss it.
As the plane took off, Serafina realized the retreat had already begun. This wasn't just about maintaining the charade. It was about navigating complex professional politics in unfamiliar territory. The stakes felt suddenly higher. The Evergreen Resort lived up to its reputation. Nestled among towering pines with mountain views, the luxury property exuded exclusivity. Executives dispersed to their rooms with plans to reconvene for the evening cocktail reception. Alone in her suite, Serafina practiced her presentation while periodically checking her appearance. The reality of the situation kept hitting her in waves. Maintaining this facade for 3 days seemed increasingly daunting. A text message from Vivian arrived. "Remember, networking as Serafina is no different than networking as Nolan. You know the business, you know the accounts. The packaging is different, but the content remains the same." Somehow, those words helped. When Serafina entered the cocktail reception in her navy skirt and cream blouse, she forced herself to remember that beneath the unfamiliar exterior, her professional knowledge remained intact. The room buzzed with conversation. Executives from across Pinnacle's divisions mingled with board members and key clients. Serafina accepted a glass of white wine and surveyed the terrain, identifying potential connections relevant to her marketing proposals.
Serafina.
Marcus appeared at her elbow.
Let me introduce you around.
Before she could respond, he was guiding her through the crowd, making introductions to people Nolan had unsuccessfully tried to meet for years. The CFO, the head of product development, 2 board members. Each conversation flowed with surprising ease. So, tell me about this campaign you're presenting tomorrow, prompted Eleanor Richfield, a board member with legendary influence. Serafina explained her innovative approach to the Henderson account, emphasizing metrics and projected outcomes. Eleanor nodded with increasing interest. Refreshing to hear someone focus on substance rather than flash, she remarked. Come find me after your presentation tomorrow. I'd like to discuss further. As Eleanor moved on, Serafina stood momentarily stunned. 3 years of trying to get the board's attention, and now one conversation had opened a door. Throughout the evening, a pattern emerged. People listened to Serafina. They engaged with her ideas. They remembered her name. By the time she returned to her suite, her phone contained a dozen new high-level contacts and several meeting requests. Removing the makeup and changing into comfortable sleepwear, she stared at her reflection. Something unprecedented had happened tonight. The question was, why? Morning arrived with fresh anxiety. Today included her presentation. Serafina dressed in a charcoal pencil skirt and burgundy blouse, maintaining professional aesthetics while ensuring she wouldn't blend into the background. The auburn hair extensions were styled into a sleek, shoulder-length cut that framed her face. Her presentation slot came after lunch. Standing before the assembled executives, Serafina felt a strange calm replace her earlier nervousness. The data was solid. The strategy was sound. All that remained was delivery. Good afternoon, she began. Today's consumer doesn't just purchase products. They invest in narratives. For the next 20 minutes, she commanded the room, presenting marketing insights with confidence and responding to questions with precise, thoughtful answers. The engagement level exceeded anything Nolan had previously experienced in corporate presentations. When she concluded, actual applause followed, a rarity in these typically reserved sessions. CEO Daniel Harrington nodded approvingly from the back row. The afternoon continued with additional presentations, but executives kept approaching Serafina during breaks to discuss her ideas further. Eleanor Richfield made good on her promise, engaging her in a 15-minute conversation about applying similar strategies to other accounts. That evening's dinner provided more networking opportunities. Serafina found herself seated at the CEO's table, a placement Nolan had never achieved. Your presentation today showed remarkable insight, Daniel commented between courses. How long have you been with Pinnacle? 3 years, she answered truthfully. Really? I'm surprised we haven't crossed paths before your transfer. Richard, seated nearby, smoothly intervened. Serafina was primarily working with our international clients until recently. The conversation shifted, but throughout dinner, Serafina noticed Daniel occasionally glancing her way with thoughtful consideration. The final day of the retreat featured strategy sessions and team-building activities. Dressed in a black sheath dress that Vivian had insisted was corporate power in fabric form, Serafina continued building connections and contributing to discussions. During the closing reception, Richard approached with barely contained excitement. Daniel wants to see you in his suite in 30 minutes, he whispered. Something about a special project. Anxiety and curiosity battled as Serafina knocked on the CEO's door precisely 30 minutes later. Daniel welcomed her into a sitting area where Richard and Eleanor Richfield were already waiting. Serafina, Daniel began after she was seated. Your performance at this retreat has been exceptional. You've demonstrated remarkable skill in communication, strategy, and relationship building. Thank you, sir. We have a situation developing with the Westover account, he continued. They're considering moving their business elsewhere after 15 years with us. We need someone with fresh perspective and excellent relationship skills to turn this around. Eleanor leaned forward. Your presentation approach yesterday showcased exactly the kind of thinking we need.
We'd like to promote you to senior marketing executive, Daniel said, with primary responsibility for client relations on our top 10 accounts.
Serafina blinked in surprise.
That's quite an opportunity. There's one condition, Richard interjected. The client-facing role would require you to maintain the presence you've established here.
Understanding dawned slowly.
You mean, Serafina has made quite an impression, Daniel explained. Your approach as Serafina connects with people in ways our traditional representatives haven't achieved. The implications were staggering. They wanted Nolan's marketing expertise packaged as Serafina, permanently. I need time to consider this, she said carefully. Of course, Daniel nodded. We fly back tomorrow. Let us know your decision by Monday. Back in her suite, Serafina paced restlessly. The promotion represented everything Nolan had worked toward. Influence, recognition, substantial salary increase. But the condition attached was life-altering. She called Vivian, who listened without interruption. It's ultimately your choice, Vivian said when Serafina finished explaining. But consider this. As Nolan, you've been overlooked for 3 years despite your talents. As Serafina, you've been recognized and valued immediately. Because of a skirt and makeup? Because people actually saw you, Vivian corrected. Sometimes we need to change how we present to get others to see what was always there. The flight home the next day passed in contemplative silence. Serafina noticed executives who had never acknowledged Nolan now sought her opinions and included her in conversations about future projects. Monday morning arrived with decision time. Nolan dressed in his usual white shirt and charcoal slacks, but brought a garment bag containing a black sheath dress and red heels. Standing before Richard's office, he made his choice. Minutes later, Serafina emerged from the restroom and walked confidently to the CEO's office. I accept the position, she informed Daniel, with one condition of my own, which is, I want a proper wardrobe allowance. If I'm representing Pinnacle to our most valuable clients, I should look the part. Daniel smiled. Absolutely agreed. Welcome to the executive team, Serafina. The transition happened with surprising efficiency. HR handled paperwork designating Serafina Collins as Nolan Harper's professional identity. A company credit card arrived for wardrobe expenses. Nolan's apartment remained his private sanctuary, but from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each workday, Serafina represented Pinnacle strategies with growing confidence. The Westover account stabilized within weeks under her attention. Other clients responded similarly to her approach, direct, knowledgeable, but with an emotional intelligence that built genuine connections rather than merely transactional relationships. 3 months into the arrangement, Serafina sat across from the Westover CEO, finishing a lunch meeting that had secured not only their continued business, but an expansion of services. I must say, he remarked, signing the contract, Pinnacle made an excellent decision putting you in charge of our account. Your predecessor was competent, but you actually understand our vision. The irony wasn't lost on her. The predecessor had been Nolan himself. Back at the office, word of another closed deal spread quickly. Marcus stopped by her office, a corner space that had once belonged to a vice president. The office queen strikes again,
He grinned. That's 3 impossible deals this month. Office Queen? That's what everyone's calling you. The impossible deal closer, always impeccable in those trademark black dresses and red heels. The nickname stuck. 6 months into her role, the Office Queen had become synonymous with success. Serafina's office wall displayed framed contracts representing millions in revenue. Her calendar filled with meetings where her presence was specifically requested. Vivian, now promoted to her executive assistant, managed the increasingly complex schedule. The Simpson Group specifically asked for you at their charity gala, Vivian noted during their morning briefing. They're considering consolidating all their marketing needs under one agency. That would be our largest account if we land it, Serafina mused, reviewing the invitation. Formal attire required. I've already scheduled time with the personal shopper at Nordstrom, Vivian replied efficiently. You'll need something spectacular for this one. The transformation that had begun as a temporary measure had evolved into something permanent and unexpectedly fulfilling. Serafina's auburn hair now grew naturally to shoulder length, maintained with regular salon appointments. Her wardrobe of designer dresses, particularly her signature black sheaths for important meetings, filled a dedicated closet in her office for midday changes. The red heels had multiplied into a collection that occupied their own rack. More significantly, the separation between Nolan and Serafina had gradually diminished. Weekend errands now happened with neutral clothing, but with Serafina's hair and subtle makeup. The distinction between work identity and real identity blurred into something more integrated. Richard frequently checked in, ensuring the arrangement remained comfortable. During one such meeting, Serafina addressed the evolution directly. I never expected this to become permanent, she admitted, but I've discovered something surprising. Which is? Richard prompted. I've never been more successful professionally, and I've never felt more authentic personally. She smoothed the fabric of her dress, a deep green sheath today, paired with the trademark red heels. Somehow, becoming Serafina allowed me to express aspects of myself that Nolan kept hidden. Richard nodded thoughtfully. Identity is more complex than most people acknowledge. I'm just pleased the arrangement works for both you and the company. As her 1-year anniversary in the role approached, Daniel called Serafina into his office. Eleanor Richfield sat beside him, her presence suggesting significant news. The board has been reviewing our client retention metrics, Daniel began. Since your promotion, we've increased retention by 23% and expanded services with existing clients by 31%. Those numbers reflect team efforts, Serafina noted diplomatically. True, Eleanor agreed. But your leadership has been the catalyst, which brings us to our proposal. Daniel slid a folder across the desk. We're creating a new position, Chief Client Relations Officer reporting directly to me with a seat on the executive committee. Serafina opened the folder. The compensation package made her breath catch. This represents our investment in your continued success, Eleanor said, and recognition of the transformation you've brought to our client approach. The word transformation wasn't lost on Serafina. Both her career and personal journey had indeed been transformative. I'm honored, she said sincerely. And I accept. That evening, Serafina stood before her apartment mirror, studying her reflection. The auburn hair framed a face that had grown confident in its presentation. The business attire had been replaced with comfortable evening wear, still feminine, still authentically her. Her phone chimed with congratulatory messages from colleagues who had heard about the promotion. Among them, a text from Marcus. Long live the Queen! Celebration dinner tomorrow? Smiling, she typed her response. Absolutely. The Queen accepts your invitation. The journey from reluctant masquerade to authentic identity had been unexpected. 3 days had become permanent. A corporate requirement had revealed a personal truth. Nolan's marketing talent had always been exceptional, but it took Serafina to make the world finally take notice. Hanging up a newly purchased dress for tomorrow's celebration dinner, Serafina reflected on the strange path that had led here. The company had initially wanted Nolan's talent with Serafina's presentation. What they got, what she discovered, was that they had always been the same person, just waiting for the opportunity to be fully seen. The following morning, she selected a burgundy dress and her signature red heels. The executive committee meeting would be her first as Chief Client Relations Officer. As she applied her makeup with practiced ease, she appreciated how completely the boundaries between performance and reality had dissolved. Serafina Collins, once a convenient fiction, had become her truth. The office queen would continue her reign, not because the company required it, but because she had found her authentic throne. Walking into Pinnacle's headquarters with confident strides, Serafina nodded to the receptionist and headed toward the executive floor that now included her permanent office. The promotional announcement had been company-wide, and colleagues offered congratulations as she passed. Her phone buzzed with a message from the CEO. "Board members arriving early. Meeting moved up 15 minutes. Quickening her pace, she rounded the corner and nearly collided with a man carrying a portfolio case. "Pardon me," she began, then recognized him, the creative director from their Chicago office, visiting for quarterly reviews. They had never met in person, but had collaborated on several projects via video conference. His expression shifted from apology to recognition, then subtle confusion as he processed her appearance versus her voice on their previous calls. "Serafina Collins," she said smoothly, extending her hand. "We finally meet in person." The moment of uncertainty passed as he shook her hand. "Michael Donovan, your reputation precedes you, the office queen who never loses a client." "I prefer to think of it as never failing to understand what clients truly need," she corrected with a professional smile. "Heading to the executive meeting?" he asked, falling into step beside her. "My first as Chief Client Relations Officer." "Congratulations on the promotion. Well deserved from everything I've heard." As they walked toward the conference room, she noticed Michael studying her with curious interest. Once, such observation would have triggered anxiety about her presentation. Now, it merely registered as the natural curiosity about an executive whose reputation had traveled throughout the company. The boardroom already contained several executives and board members when they arrived. Daniel waved her toward a seat near the head of the table, a position that reflected her new status. The nameplate before the chair read Serafina Collins, CCRO. Seeing her name officially displayed in the executive hierarchy produced an unexpected wave of emotion. This was real. This was permanent. This was earned. As the meeting progressed, Serafina presented client retention strategies with the confidence that had become her hallmark. Questions were addressed with precise data and thoughtful insights. Suggestions were acknowledged and incorporated into the discussion. "Serafina will be leading our relationship recovery initiative with Hargrove Industries," Daniel announced toward the meeting's end. "We've lost ground with them over the past year, but if anyone can restore their confidence in Pinnacle, it's our office queen." Murmurs of agreement circled the table. The nickname that had once seemed somewhat diminishing had evolved into a title of respect, recognition of her specific talents in connecting with difficult clients. After the meeting, Eleanor Richfield pulled her aside. "That proposal for the client feedback system was excellent," the board member noted. "I'd like you to present it at the shareholder meeting next month." "Of course!" Serafina agreed. "I'll prepare comprehensive materials. And wear that burgundy dress," Eleanor added, with a knowing smile. "It commands attention without being distracting." "Perfect! For shareholder confidence!" The comment highlighted how completely Serafina's professional identity had integrated with her presentation. The clothing choices, once a source of discomfort, had become strategic tools in her business arsenal. Different colors and styles for different client personalities and meeting objectives. The signature red heels for closing important deals. The black sheath dresses for serious negotiations. Later that afternoon, Vivian entered her office with coffee and the day's schedule updates. "Hargrove background materials are on your tablet," her assistant reported. "And the design team sent preliminary concepts for the Simpson campaign. Also, the tailor called. Your new suits will be ready tomorrow." "Perfect timing for the Chicago trip next week." Vivian hesitated slightly. "There's one more thing. HR sent over permanent identification documents." She placed a small envelope on the desk. Inside, Serafina found a new company ID badge, security access cards, and business cards, all bearing Serafina Collins, Chief Client Relations Officer, with her professional headshot. The last item in the envelope was a letter outlining the company's official recognition of her professional identity for all business purposes. The legal implications were clearly explained. This wasn't merely a nickname or temporary arrangement. Pinnacle Strategies now formally recognized and documented Serafina Collins as her business identity. "They're asking for your signature acknowledging receipt and acceptance," Vivian noted. Serafina read the document carefully, considering its significance. This formalized what had already become reality. With steady hands, she signed her name, not Nolan Harper signing as Serafina Collins, but simply Serafina Collins signing as herself. "I'll return this to HR," Vivian said, accepting the signed document. "Oh, and Marcus confirmed dinner at 7. He's bringing the new marketing director to introduce you." After Vivian departed, Serafina opened her desk drawer and removed a small framed photograph, the only personal item displayed in her otherwise meticulously professional office. The image showed a much younger Nolan Harper receiving a university marketing award, looking uncomfortable in an ill-fitting suit and tentative smile. She placed the photo on her desk, not hiding it but not prominently displaying it either. A reminder of the journey. The talent had always been there. The confidence, the presence, the ability to connect. Those had come with Serafina. Her computer chimed with an incoming video call request from their West Coast office. Straightening in her chair and quickly checking her appearance in the compact mirror she kept in her top drawer, Serafina clicked accept and smiled professionally at the regional director who appeared on screen.
"Serafina, congratulations on the promotion,"
he greeted enthusiastically.
"We have a situation with the Paramount account that requires your magical touch."
The work continued seamlessly. This was her reality now. The office queen in her burgundy dress and auburn hair, strategizing client relationships and closing impossible deals in her trademark red heels. The person she had become, or perhaps had always been beneath the surface, now fully recognized and valued. That evening, as she prepared for dinner with Marcus and the new marketing director, Serafina realized something significant. She no longer thought of her life in terms of before and after, or in terms of performance versus reality. There was simply now, and she was simply herself. Serafina Collins, the office queen who had found her throne by embracing an unexpected transformation. Selecting diamond stud earrings to complement her evening outfit, she smiled at her reflection, confident, authentic, and completely at peace with the path that had led here. The 3-day corporate retreat had changed everything, revealing not just a talent for client relations, but a truth about identity itself. Success, she had discovered, came not from conforming to expectations, but from finding the courage to become fully yourself, even when that self emerges from the most unexpected circumstances.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!